Ideas are common, execution is rare.
Welcome to Agency for Change, a podcast from KidGlov that brings you the stories of change makers who are actively working to improve our communities. In every episode, we'll meet with people who are making a lasting impact in the places we call home.
Hey everyone, this is Lynn Weinman, president of KidGlov. Welcome back to the Agency for Change podcast. So it is October and we are in the time of pumpkin spice and apple pie and everything good. So what a perfect time to talk about the food supply chain, right? So today we are welcoming Wayne McIntyre, the co-founder and CEO of a startup called Relocalize. Their mission is to decentralize and decarbonize food production, significantly cutting down its environmental footprint, while at the same time ensuring a fresher, more accessible product to consumers. So I think this is going to be really interesting, and we are going to learn a bit more about hyperlocal manufacturing. All right, Wayne, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Lynn. Really excited to be here to talk about transforming food supply chains.
Oh, yeah, transforming the food supply chain. I mean, really, you are doing some interesting stuff. And could you just start by giving us a really high-level overview of Relocalize?
Absolutely. So, Lynn, we're trying to think about supply chains differently. Today.
Okay, Wayne, I'm going to stop you right there because probably not a lot of our listeners think about supply chains at all, right? And so you're kind of just bringing this into our consciousness, but you think about supply chains all the time.
Probably a little bit too much, absolutely. So, yeah, when we talk about a food supply chain, right, that's all the things that happen from manufacturing, distribution, trucking, retailer. It's that whole chain that goes right from where the food is produced to the consumer at the end of the day. And that chain is really complicated.
Yeah.
That chain is very expensive, and it's also very carbon intensive.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, think of all those trucks we see on the road, and a very large percentage of them are food trucks or delivery trucks or long-haul transportation of products from California to, say, the East Coast. Our vision at Relocalize is to hyper-localize production. That means have little factories all over North America. That mean you don't need to do all that trucking. It means that you don't have all that complexity, and you get rid of the carbon if you're not driving all over the place on trucks.
Yeah, I appreciate that because, in the intro, Wayne, we said that you are focusing on decentralizing and decarbonizing food supply chains on a broad scale. So can you tell us more about how that works?
That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? I think
it is.
A lot of big words, but really at the end of the day, what that means is if you have a small factory, and it sits right at a distribution center. What normally would happen is, that food is made in one place, ingredients come from another place, it then goes on a truck, it sits at a distribution center or a cold storage warehouse, and then goes to another distribution center for the grocer, and finally then goes to the stores. If you can make food right at a distribution center, all those chains go away. Everything happens in just one place. And what that means is you can be, much more local, serve a community instead of serving a whole country or a whole region from a factory. And that means that you can have, products that are unique and specific to that particular geography. But most importantly, it means you're not having to truck food all over North America, which means away go all those carbon emissions that are associated with trucking.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense to me, Wayne. But can you tell me more? Like, how does it work? How small are these manufacturing plants? I'm just really curious about how this all works.
So the first product we're doing it for is packaged ice.
Okay.
So we're focused actually initially on products made of water. And the reason is really simple. They're very heavy and they're the most expensive products to ship.
Really?
That's why Elon Musk and Tesla are focused on partnering with Pepsi for the launch of their electric semi-tractor trailer truck. We're doing the same
Wow.
thing. We're focused on products made of water as well. We're focused on ice first because it's the most expensive and the heaviest of the products that you need to ship. But ultimately, we have a factory that is, under 1,500 square feet. It has robots in it instead of people. Our
Wow.
people in a centralized command and control center. So there are no people on site. And inside that factory does everything a large factory would do. It's 1/20th the size, but it produces 1/20th as much as, say, a traditional or conventional ice factory. But it does it all on site with no people at all, right at that distribution center. So you get rid of the truck completely, whether it's Elon Musk's electric semi, or a traditional tractor trailer truck. They're gone.
Wow, this is fascinating. So you start with ice, and then once you're successful with ice, then you can start thinking about all kinds of things, right?
We're really focused on that beverage category right now because it's so heavy and carbon intensive. So, but believe it or not, ice is a multi-billion-dollar market. And most
Really,
people
you just don't think about it at
all,
all, right?
right?
Yeah.
But we see ourselves starting in ice for a whole bunch of reasons. Happy to tell you about those if you have any questions. But we're starting with ice for a bunch of reasons. Most importantly, it's the most carbon intensive. Then we see bottled water and beverage is our future. This is a multi-trillion-dollar market. But most importantly to us, it is a huge category when it comes to carbon emissions. So I don't know if most people don't realize that our food system is responsible for about 3.4 gigatons of carbon equivalent emissions each and every year. That piece of the food system that involves distribution, trucks, manufacturing, and retailing, just that part. And, that's a big number. What does that number mean?
Right. It's almost too big to kind of even fathom, Wayne.
It's just a number, but so we could put it into something relative. It is, it is significantly larger than the entire commercial aviation sector.
Wow.
Well, it's actually 3 times as much. So just that part of the food chain, our food system that we're trying to impact, is a huge carbon emitter, and beverages are the worst. Products made of water are the worst because they're so heavy. So it's the best place for us to focus from an impact perspective as well as from an economic perspective, so we can have a win-win for us.
You're blowing my mind a little bit, because I think when a lot of us think of carbon footprint, we do think of airlines, right? We don't think of ice and bottled water and soda and all those energy drinks, all the things that line the wall of the quick shop. You're looking to someday hyper-localize. That's pretty cool, Wayne. So Wayne, can you go a little bit deeper then on the impact of hyper-local manufacturing on transforming food systems?
Yes. So if you think about a food system, right, it's thousands of chains. All those products you see on a shelf, right, they're all coming from different places, mostly regional or centralized, sometimes even international scale factories, right? And they're really complicated. As we found out during COVID, these types of systems are complicated. They're complex. They have a whole lot of players. And when they get disrupted, products go missing, shelves are empty. And there's a whole lot of risk in that supply chain. So all that complexity, all those players, all those trucks, it's really a web of complexity. So that's the first. The second part is there is a whole lot of consumption that goes on in that process, whether it be wrapping and unwrapping pallets, whether it be trucking, whether it be food waste. And in some categories of food waste can get, up to almost 50%. And so there's so much waste and complexity and cost in that system that if you can actually get rid of that complexity, right? So it's not a web, actually a micro factory right at the distribution center. If you can get rid of the trucks, there go a lot of costs, there go a lot of complexity as well. You end up with is not a food chain, but a supply system, and it's all in one place. But what's more, it's a network. So just imagine ice for a second. We're going to be deploying about 3,000 microfactories across North America just for ice. And so if one of those factories goes down, or there's a big storm that gets rid, let's say in Florida, and a portion of Florida can't get products from that area because they can't be produced, well, the rest of the network picks up the slack.
Wow.
And for ICE, this is a great example because ICE is an essential service during a hurricane. This is how people keep their food fresh so they don't, their food doesn't go bad. It's really an absolute need in an emergency situation. When you have a distributed network of production, it doesn't matter when a few parts of that network go down, the rest can pick up the slack. So what you end up with is a greener and better and more secure supply chain. It's just a more resilient, less complicated, less expensive in some cases, not all cases, less expensive and definitely more sustainable.
I love that. So Wayne, how does someone like you get involved in this line of work? Were you on the playground as an 8-year-old saying, I'm going to relocalize the food supply chain?
I'm a nature lover. I'm happiest when I'm hundreds of kilometers away from any other human being in nature. And, this is really right from a very, very young age, drove a strong interest in biology, ecology, sustainability. I remember studying, believe it or not, global warming back in the 80s. That's really old science, believe it or not. And for many years, this was just something I did on the side of my desk. I've been in the tech industry for more than 20 years. My personal passion for sustainability was something I got involved in, not-for-profits, other areas. I'm personally carbon negative. I'm rewilding a 100-acre
property.
But these were all personal activities. And then I'd go to work and I'd work for my tech companies. And really at this stage of my life, I was looking for an opportunity to have my personal passions for impact aligned 100% with my professional goals. And not that the other companies I was involved in weren't making impact, but really they weren't decarbonizing. And that's really what my passion now. I have 3 children. I'll leave the world a better place when my time comes to an end. And I think Relocalize is really exists to actually prove that it's possible to have a sustainable business economically while delivering massive impact and decarbonization.
Wayne, I love hearing that. You hear more and more people since the pandemic who are saying, I want my life and my work to stand for something. I don't want it to just be going in and trading for the paycheck. And your story is inspiring and you're doing it. And, another thing that I've seen here in your background information is that you've won something called the ABB Sustainability Prize. And I know that's a huge achievement. Can you tell everybody what that means and kind of how that has influenced your work at Relocalize?
We've been really fortunate to have partners and people in the industry champion us. And I think we've come at this from a purpose perspective. We're driving change, and we believe in that change. And I think that's contagious, right? And it's been noticed by ABB is the world's largest supplier of industrial robotics. They're a key partner for us, and really, we're making them part of that sustainability equation too. We replace trucks with robots.
Wow.
And I think that's something that gets them excited as well. And, when we have that kind of recognition, it's a positive feedback loop. It really helps us quite a lot as well, because, when you have major players with that kind of credibility involved in your business, it makes it much easier when you're raising capital or trying to convince an investor that, hey, this is, why should you put your money here instead of there? Why should you help us decarbonize when you could be, I don't know, developing the next social media application?
There you go.
And, this kind of support, one, energizes our team, but also lends us some additional credibility that helps us drive forward with our mission. So we're really thankful and appreciative of all these, as well as the trade magazines. We won Progressive Grocer. We were one of the editor picks for Product of the Year for sustainability. And
congratulations!
Oh, thanks. And we're so excited and grateful that people are seeing the mission and helping us promote that vision for a hyper-local, decarbonized food system.
I love it, Wayne. So you mentioned partnerships. I'm curious, I'm assuming partnerships must play a key role in doing this work and meeting the sustainability objectives.
Partnerships are critical. They're critical for learning because, again, we're a small, young startup, right? Trying to make a big impact. And you can have great partners that have tons of industry expertise, like Southeastern Grocers. They're our launch partner for our first microfactory. Here's a grocery retailer with the vision to try something new. take a risk. Nobody's ever done this before. Making food at a distribution center, okay. When you have a partner like that, one that gives you a chance to really road test your innovation. But what it also does is it gives you a chance to learn from all those experts from inside the organization.
Yeah,
whether
great point.
Southeastern grocers or our other partners, that's what they bring to us. They don't just bring money. They don't just bring maybe a customer an agreement or a contract. They're bringing their brains, they're bringing their hearts, and they're bringing their credibility to the table as well, which again is something you need if you want to bring affect a massive change.
All of those things are very important. So Wayne, so many exciting things happening. What's ahead? What's next for you?
We completed our proof of concept factory, and so we proved it's possible. And it's pretty exciting. In that case, compared to the product we were replacing, we're talking about north of a 90% transportation carbon footprint reduction.
Wow. So 90%. Yeah.
90%. That's a huge number, right? At the same time, we're delivering cost savings. And this is really why we focused on this sector in particular, right? Ice is a luxury, except for during hurricanes and, there are other places we put our attention. But when we think about ice and beverage, you need to meet customers where they are. And this is a place where it works, where you can bring both economic results and sustainability results at the same time. And we believe that's how you affect change, by showing people that it's possible. And so our proof of concept has done that. The next big step for us is launching a full-scale micro factory, which is, we haven't announced it yet, but it'll be coming very soon. One that will be able to serve more than 100 stores and really transform an entire community's source for at least one category of products, packaged ice.
Wow, that's great. So Wayne, just to bring this down to the level of just your average person, what insights or advice do you have for our listeners who are interested in sustainable food practices? Is there anything we can do?
Absolutely. It all comes down to the consumer at the end of the day, right?
Okay.
The choices we make, the places where we put our dollars and cents are so important, right? Everything comes down to the market. Everything comes down to the consumer. So I think my advice would be, if you're a consumer who's passionate, there's so much greenwashing and noise out there.
Right. Sometimes it's frustrating because you don't really know, right? You don't really know what's real.
Absolutely. But I'd say my advice would be power through it. Power through that challenge. And I think I would say support as many companies that are doing their best. Nobody's perfect, right? We still have to use plastic in our product. We hate plastic.
Right.
It is something we need to do. But find those organizations that are trying to do better, and I think support them. So that's, support them if you're a consumer by buying their products. If you are another, entrepreneur out there who's looking for their next big idea, happy to get, our ideas are free, right? Take an idea, whether it be ours or somebody else's or your own, and maybe step in and actually build a company of your own, or just do what you can in your own environment, right? Try to buy products that have less packaging, try to compost or other things. Everybody can take action based on, where they are in their personal situation. The sustainability is something we can all do something about.
Wayne, I really love that. I think that is great advice for people. And, I think one thing I've noticed about talking to entrepreneurs who are in a purpose-driven space is they're very willing to share ideas and resources with others who are solving the big problems, right? And I think there's a generosity of spirit in this space that you just demonstrated as well. So, Wayne, I'm going to put you on the hot seat next. You might need some ice for this one. I'm just kidding. I
can drink my water here.
There you go. Have a drink. So there's one question we've asked on every episode of the Agency for Change podcast. I am inspired by motivational quotes, and I'm wondering if you could give us a few of your own words of wisdom to inspire our listeners.
Yeah, I have one, and actually it connects really well to what we were just talking about.
Awesome.
Sharing ideas. This is a quote that actually I engraved on my first iPad that I bought back in 2010. You know how you had that option where you could put something on the, engraved on it for free.
Yeah.
On the back of that iPad was ideas are common, execution is rare.
Ooh, I love it. Most of us just engraved our names on our iPads, but I like that. Ideas are common, execution is rare. And you are in that execution stage right now with Relocalize, I know. So as we wrap up this great conversation today, such interesting stuff about the food chain supply. What would you say is the most important thing you would like our listeners to remember, Wayne, about the work that you're doing?
I'm going to come back to that ideas are common idea again. And I think the most important thing is it's going to take change at a massive scale. Right?
Yeah.
And, the hard part is not the talking about it. The hard part is not the thinking about it, the ideas. The hard part is doing something about it. It's that roll up your sleeves and taking action. And so, if anybody, has this idea of decentralizing manufactured foods, happy to reach out. Anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to share those ideas, right? Because I know those ideas are worth very little, and hopefully other people can execute on them. We're going to execute on them in products made of water first. Maybe someone else has a way to take some of those ideas and do it somewhere else. And so I think ultimately I'd say, look, it's a community. I'd leave with the idea that whether it is building a company or buying good products, get out there and take action. Don't talk about it, do something about it. And if we all do that, whether it's buying a product or building a company, I'm 100% confident we can deal with the climate crisis.
That's amazing, Wayne. Wayne, we're going to make sure we get your LinkedIn connection in the show notes on the KidGlov website. And for people who want more information on Relocalize, what's the best way for them to find you?
Our website is a great place to start. You can see our microfactory and learn a little bit about what we're doing. And I think listening to this podcast and a quick Google of Relocalize, quite a lot of what we put out there in the world will be there. And I'm happy to, of course, answer any questions that people may have.
Fantastic. We'll make sure to get that website in the show notes as well. Kudos to you for having a unique name so people can find you with Google too. That's an important thing, Wayne. Wayne, it's just been a pleasure talking with you, learning more about your work. I fully believe the world needs more people like you that are passionate about their cause and do something about it, and more organizations like Relocalize. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Lynn. It's been a real pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed today's Agency for Change podcast. To hear all our interviews with those who are making a positive change in our communities, or to nominate a changemaker you'd love to hear from, visit KidGlov.com at KIDGLOV.com to get in touch. As always, if you like what you've heard today, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.